Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I thought we would have a look at the best of Steam stuff, specifically looking at War Thunder and its progression over the last few years. Because even though, as usual, you will always get naysayers in War Thunder saying that it's a niche game, or saying that the game is dying, or saying any of the other ridiculous things that people say about the game, unfortunately the stats don't back that up. So it's always nice reminding people that these stats exist, and I've done a few videos over the years looking at different things, basically showing that War Thunder, even today, is on a gradual increase when it comes to player base, and when it comes to revenue generated, and when it comes to all of these things. And this gives a really nice look into what I've been talking about for such a long time. Before we get into it, War Thunder is doing another Memorial Date event, and this is going from the 10th of January until the 13th, and it is looking at the Vistula Oder offensive. And basically, in January 1945, the Vistula Oder offensive by the Soviet army began to liberate the western parts of Poland and provide a further advance by troops into German territory. The operation became perhaps the most intensive strategic offensive operation in the history of modern Europe, possessing total air superiority and a significant advantage in manpower and armored vehicles. The troops of the Red Army, as well as the Polish formations that came under the command of the USSR, threw back the Wehrmacht forces with powerful blows beyond the border of Germany. An Allied victory became just a matter of time. And basically, what you have to do is you have to get either 40 kills in AB or 20 in RB or SB with the specific vehicles listed. You can actually find these if you go to your profile in game, to achievement, and then Memorial Date. It shows you everything there. You can even favorite it, so it's on your little bar on the left-hand side of the screen. And rewards-wise, you can get a booster, a 20 to 50% booster for 3 to 10 battles for RP or SL. You can maybe get some backups, or you can get a random camouflage for one of the vehicles participating in the event, or you can get a day of premium. So these events are generally pretty good. I would say it's worth doing them. It's worth giving the vehicles a go. It means that maybe you can play some old favorites, or maybe grind stuff which you haven't played before. But it obviously uses Soviet and German vehicles, so make sure to have a look at that. So into the main subject of the video. Today we're going to be talking about Steam, and if you didn't know, Steam actually releases a top sellers list of each year. It's been doing it for many years now, and we're going to be going back to 2018 just because it gives us a nice round number, just to kind of show a general pattern that we've been seeing over the many years. Now, Steam releases these lists at the end of the year, and it looks nowadays at top sellers, new releases, most played, early access grads, best of VR, controller friendly, and also a blog post tying it all together. What we're going to be focusing on is the top sellers and also the most played. Now, what a top seller is basically a game which measured the most in gross revenue. So not net profit or anything like that, just the game that has made the most money when it comes to Steam. Now, obviously, they don't go through how much the games actually make specifically, but it just gives you a general idea of how much these games are making compared to others which are on the market. And one of the games which continually is in the top 50 is War Thunder, and has been for many years, which we'll have a look at. One of the things to also remember is War Thunder as a game also is not on Steam. Steam is not its major platform. It's not one of those places where War Thunder is as prevalent as other places. It's actually been quite funny because in the past, the CEO of Gadget Entertainment, obviously Mr. Yudintsev, has actually criticized Steam because of its lack of accessibility and its lack of kind of statistics feedback, so they can actually properly promote their stuff. They don't really like the store page and stuff like that. But when it comes to War Thunder itself seems to be doing pretty well when it comes to Steam. And also at the same time, Gaijin have the console markets. They have Xbox and also PlayStation, maybe others in the future. They also have the Gaijin store, which I think is their main place where they get the most moolah when it comes to these things. And Steam also takes a cut on top of, the general prices of what you can, buy through Steam. So generally it's actually seen as the weaker option when it comes to purchasing for this. So it's really interesting to see how a game which has other avenues for getting stuff through it still does really well on a platform where it generally doesn't actually fit it very well if we have a look at all of the factors. So starting off in 2018, War Thunder has actually been pretty consistent when it comes to its revenue generation across the years through Steam. It was actually put in the silver category, which means that it was in the top 40 games of that year when it comes to the gross revenue. So even back in 2018, where you heard a lot of people, talking about how the game was not really going anywhere, the content being introduced, the bugs that were being introduced was not in a great place, it put it in a pretty rough area. It was alongside games such as Fallout 4, Ghost Recon Wildlands, even stuff like The Forest, Frostpunk, and even Dying Light in that year, along with Subnautica. So it was up there with some of the big players, only beaten out by stuff like Kingdom Come Deliverance, things such as City Skylines, Jurassic World Evolution, and even, of course, stuff like Dota 2 and Assassin's Creed and Grand Theft Auto 5. When it came to 2019, it was able to keep its place. It stayed in the top 40 and was alongside a few other games which had moved around, such as City Skylines and also Divinity Original Sin, putting it in the silver bracket. So even when we have a look at 2019, it's still doing fantastically well. It's still in the top 40 games on Steam, which is an incredible thing to think about, especially repeating this feat year on year on year. And then 2020 came along. Now, 2020, in my opinion, was kind of like a breakout year when it comes to War Thunder. Obviously, you had the pandemic, which helped out. We saw a massive increase in general interest in the game, massive increase in just overall player base. This led to a few unfortunate issues, such as the actual servers not being in the greatest place. We also saw a bunch of other additions to the game, such as the South Africans, which made people interested. But 2019 and 2020 really kind of cemented War Thunder as one of those games which would have a lot of longevity, not just because of outside factors, but because of the development that went into the game. Stuff like Update New Power, for example, which added a lot of stuff to the game, including a new version of the Daegor engine. Then also Update Groundbreaking, which added some really interesting physical parts to the game, which a lot of people, would really like over the years. They also added stuff like Sweden, for example, and also South Africa as playable nations. So overall, between 2019 and 2020, this game kept its place once again. Top 40 in the silver bracket of highest grossing games. So over a 3-year period, it was in the top 40 games when it came to gross revenue, gross revenue over time. And if we have a look at the most played section of 2020, what you'll actually find is War Thunder is once again in the silver category, and it peaked over 50,000 players when it came to Steam. This puts it with Red Dead Redemption 2, Sea of Thieves, Payday 2, funnily enough, Tomb Raider, and also even Microsoft Flight Simulator and stuff like Left 4 Dead 2 and Halo, the Master Chief Collection. So showing that it's up there with the big players during that year, only to be beaten out by stuff like Apex Legends, another game which has been having quite a lot of server issues recently, stuff such as Destiny, Counter-Strike, and even Mountain Blade Bannerlord. And when we have a look at 2021, which was just recently released, something has changed. but it's changed in a positive way. Instead of War Thunder keeping its place in the silver category, showing that it was in the top 40 of gross revenue games of those years, now it's in the gold area, meaning that it's in the top 24 places in the overall Steam landscape of gross revenue. Another thing as well is when it comes to its most played area, it also was in the silver category, and it had over 60,000 peak players at one time which played the game. So it had more players playing it this year at least one time, and also it's made more revenue this year compared to last year when we have a look at Steam. So once again, its minor platform compared to others, it is doing absolutely insanely well. If you told many of the naysayers years ago that War Thunder would be in the top 24 on Steam, then I think it would blow their minds. But I think it would blow their minds more to realize that it's been up there for the majority of years that it's actually been out and released as a game after its OBT era. So War Thunder is doing really well. There's no other way of putting it. War Thunder as a game is not niche. It has never really been niche. The ideas behind it may be a little bit niche to people, but when you compare it to other games in its genre, which are available on Steam, stuff like World of Warships, World of Tanks Blitz, other military games, it is literally blowing them out of the water when it comes to all statistics which we have available. We know that it's also increasing in player base on the Xbox consoles, on the PlayStation consoles, and also on top of that, Gaijin themselves are investing in more products and becoming, or if not already, the largest publishing house in the Russian region. War Thunder as a game is doing incredibly well right now. Probably the best that it has done in its history when it comes to the last 3 years. Which means that in the future, we're in for a hell of a treat. Because there's going to be a ton of really cool stuff coming along, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But the idea that this game is dying, or was ever dying, during its history, has always been preposterous. And whenever you hear that, guess what? There's stuff that you can counter with. And this is one of those things. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Bareen, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.